you watching the video. Welcome to a tutorial video where I am going to show you guys how I animated the pony from Internet Memes 2. I'm going to show you the entire process. First of all, let's get to the stuff that matters right now. If you don't like the show My Little Pony, shut your trap. I don't want to hear it. This is not the place. We are here to learn. The things that you will definitely need After Effects to animate your character to give him more life. It is possible, though, to animate these characters in other programs such as Final Cut or Vegas or, I don't know, some other weird ass editing program. So let's get down to it. Yes, you need access to the internet. You need After Effects if you want to animate it. And, at least a decent amount of hardware space. Hard drive space, I'm sorry. So the first step we need to do is we need to go on the internet, and you need to just Google this Pony Creator. Yes, don't you feel like a man just staring at this thing? Created by General Zoe, sorry. This is a very nice, very well done image generator. Not only can you customize your own character, you can pose him, put him in different scenarios, and also the coding behind this is amazing. It's a very well done program, and it was perfect to give me even the ability to animate this. I don't think I'd be able to to create a character without this thing. I'm sure it would have been like 50 times crappier, or it wouldn't have happened. So I'm going to start up the program. It's a simple flash thing. Of course, you can control, how tall they are, how small or thick they are. And one of the best parts, in my opinion, is that they give you a code. If you copy the code, you can save the state that you last left it in. So I'm going to get Joe's concept state. So this is where I got Joe from. One other thing I have to definitely talk about is his lack of a cutie mark. Apparently, I blew that. I didn't think it would have been that important, but apparently I violated the pony law or something like that because he doesn't have a cutie mark. See, he's even looking at it. He doesn't have one. I wanted more attention on his face, and honestly, I was going to make it the random stick. I was going to put the random stick there, but the way it came out it looked like a different kind of stick that I don't think is child appropriate. So I just threw out the cutie mark idea and said, you know what, screw it. But I didn't think it was that important. I also didn't quite understand that it was, necessary. So we are going to animate our ponies. Let's go with, let's say he has a single line of dialogue. Let's say all he's gonna say is, his first line, which was, Dan, I'm a horse. But let's just cut out I'm a horse and just say Dan, just to make this a fairly short tutorial. So let's leave him in the state that he's in right now. He's already kind of looking back and looking at himself. You need to keep in mind a few things. His mouth and his eyes. Now, animating Legos is very easy. Their eyes and mouth never move. All they do is have body motions. Now, for a cartoon like this, his eye is going to move around. See, you can move around his eye a little bit. His mouth is going to have a different state. His mouth needs to kind of match his words. And also, he's going to be making basic head movements. Now, the one thing about this generator is that it only generates this image. So, you can't really get a more 3D model. You can't get a front shot or anything like that. I was going to attempt to rip an image from the actual show and repaint that specific character to fit Joe's needs, but it never worked out. So we're going to take this first image. So let's export the high resolution. I always export the high resolution. You can export as a regular, but So we're going to save it to wherever you want it. Save it. I always coded them as the number that I wanted them to be. So this is going to be 1.png. It's a Photoshop file. The best part about it is that all of this yellow space is actually transparent. That's awesome. So that's why Joe here was able to fit so nicely in the world that I put him in. So now you need to think, why isn't he moving his head at all? Well, we do that in After Effects. You need to know how to use the puppet tool. And I'm going to talk about that a little bit later. So he's already got kind of a D sound going. You need to think about the different consonants and vowels of what he's saying. So Dan, what do you do for the D sound? You kind of grit your teeth a little bit or make kind of that sound. So actually, we're going to give him a more grit teeth. Now, I know it's not much of a difference, but yeah, he kind of grit his teeth right there. Now, we're going to also give his eye a little bit of movement. So you can go through the eyes. You can see all the different eye types. There's like dragon kind or something like that. So we're going to make his eye kind of, not like that. That's kind of messed up. Like that, where he looks kind of like he's in shock. Like he's still stunned. So again, we're going to export that second image. So this is the fun part. Number 2. I'm going to save that. And I'm just saving these to my desktop. I'm not actually putting them in a file, but you can put them in a file as long as you know where they are. Next, we are going to make, let's see, what is it? Dan. So we're making the A sound. So let's open up his eye again. We're going to move his eye forward like he's looking. Now, he's not in that much panic mode anymore, so we're going to up his iris. His eye is very important. See, like there, he's like very, duh. But here, he's like, oh, shit, kind of thing. So we're going to make his eye kind of, this was the default size that I put his eye at. Kind of big, but very off to the side. Let's also take away his, that one. So the eye is now like looking forward. Here, you can kind of see the difference. That kind of gives it more Dan. So you really need to think about the consonants, syllables, vowels, everything that is said. So I'm going to save this as the 3rd file. And lastly, Dan, N. So best thing about this is that you could just reuse the same mouthpiece. If you stare at his mouth, he probably uses the same 4 or 5 different mouthpieces. So that's number 4. And that's all we need is those 4 images in order to get Dan. Now, of course, if he has a bigger monologue, you will have to do more. And there are some parts where I had to warp his mouth to make like ooh or W sounds or wuh. Stuff that makes you kind of perk your lips a little bit. So you you have to think about, what happens with your mouth when you say certain words. So we're going to go into After Effects here. You're going to create just a basic composition. Now the composition, this is the composition that he's going to be in. You have to make a completely separate composition in order to put in the regular composition. If that's already blowing your mind, I'm sorry. I don't really know how to put it in any more layman's terms than that. But we're just going to animate him here. That's all. So we're going to minimize this. We're going to take our 4 images and just import them. It doesn't matter how you do it, as long as in the end you have your 4 files here. Now you can kind of see him. He's, he kind of said his line. So let's drop the first image in there. Now, yeah, he's going to be a little off-center. And he's a little bit pixely, too, because his aspect ratio is off. But I guarantee the closer you get, the more high quality he gets. So we're going to resize him so that he fits center frame here, so that he's nice and tight. We're also going to copy his... we're also going to copy this so that he stays in this point. So I'm going to take the second image. I'm going to kind of cut it. All right. And this is pretty easy, actually. It's actually like animating Legos. It's essentially stop motion. So And again, we're going to cut it there, add the next file, and the next file into the timeline. Alright. Now usually I'd have the line already here showing me the wavelength or the waveform, so you can kind of get a good idea where he's putting more emphasis. So there you go. Let's kind of zoom into on his face. This is what I do for lip syncing, is I zoom in on his face. Dan. So his A is kind of extended out there, so let's redo that. So Dan. There you go. See, that was pretty nice. He had eye movement and mouth movement. That's enough to satisfy the character. Which, again, I put a lot of emphasis on the head. His head was the thing that moved the most. I felt that I really wanted the audience to just, keep an eye on his face. Nothing else. Which, again, why his body never moved. Now, it is possible to animate his hoof raising up and pointing. I did an animation test. Unfortunately, though, the Puppet tool doesn't like that, and you're getting into a whole nother realm of animation that I haven't even looked up yet. I'm still testing. So there you go. We have the eye movement and the mouth movement. So that's that. You're going to come over here. You're going to create another composition. So this is going to be a composition in a composition. I know. Wow, Inception. So, in the timeline, you're just going to have this one single composition with our character saying his phrase. He still says it. He still follows his orders correctly. There you go. So, I'm just going to cut it there. And we're going to zoom in the timeline. Next is to give him a little bit more basic movement, because, of course, you can't just have him standing there all static. That's boring. So we're going to use something that I've never really used before called the Puppet tool. And it's this pin up here for those of you who actually own After Effects, or it's Command P for you Mac users. You're going to select it. And I'd always put the first point up on his forehead. And there you go. It will create this grid-like system. Each of these triangles are then generated, and what it does is it kind of stretches these triangles and warps the image to make it look like he's actually moving. Now, you'd always have a reference image, because here's what's going to happen, and it's actually very good that I messed this up. Notice way over here. See this little itty point? Because his mouth moves, bam. This will not be recorded in the Puppet tool. That's why he can't do subtle movements. So we're gonna open the pony generator back up. It's actually very important that you do this for those of you who want to do this. We're gonna close his mouth. And we're gonna say this is the final image. This will be the reference point. Very important to do this if you're animating ponies. But normally you wouldn't have to run into this problem, because the Puppet tool is designed to not do this. So we're going to go back into our pony composition. I'm just going to add this as a single frame here in the beginning. That's it. Just a single frame. That's all you need. Oops. There you go. So we're going to go back to our original composition. I'm going to redo the Puppet tool as soon as it redoes itself. So there you go. Bam. See, now, since his mouth isn't there, it'll record his entire mouth movement. See, the whole mesh, it kind of covers that area. So, what we're going to do next, we'll wait for him to move. Dan. All right, we want him, when he makes his first movement, right there, we're going to record that point. So I'm going to go down here. On your first point, you're going to automate this process. It usually is already automated. So, again, if you just create this one point, he's not gonna do it right. He's just gonna move around like you're transforming him. Create other points. I usually create another point right here on his chest, one near his butt, or flank, and 2 on his hoofs to kind of anchor him into position so that he won't spaz out. So now if you take a look at this, I have a lot more control over his movements. I can even make him do like really weird stuff, you know. I can even make him, do really horrible things. So it's basic movements. You really got to think about, like, the way he moves. He's not going to stretch that far out. He's also not going to move just that little. He's going to go, he's going to kind of freak out. So let's do something then. Okay. I'm having too much fun here. So we wait for him to kind of clench his teeth, and his eye kind of goes, "Urgh." He's like, oh no, I'm in trouble. So we're going to mark this point. Once he grits his teeth, can make him kind of make his head go down a little bit. So there you go. I want to make sure the points are nice. Make sure it flows. And he says, Dan. Going to have his head kind of perk up. All right. And, of course, his head's going to kind of react a little bit down, too. Dan. All right. Now, you also want to make sure that his actions meet his voice. Dan? There you go. Also, we're going to take these 3 points, and that's very robotic of him. See, that was very robotic. We don't really want the robot. We want smoother motions. So you're going to go down to your keyframes here, right-click them, go to Keyframe Assistant, and you're going to click Easy Ease. It's going to make these flow a little bit better. I'm going to turn off the mesh. So I'm going to deselect the image so you don't see the points. There you go. See, that was nice. Dan? There you go. That's basic stuff. That's pretty much all you do need to know is how to get him to, do the basic head movement. So, again, that's it. Again, I apologize for the lack of cutie mark, because I guess I didn't know it was a sin to not have one. Again, another good thing about this is that because he is a photoshopped image instead of just like a black background, if I were to create, like, let's say he's in like a red world or something like that, all right? So you just put it behind his composition, and bam. See, he's already cut out. He already fits any scenario. So that's nice. It's nice. Everything about this process flows smoothly and is very effective. I'm usually able to complete one of his lines in about 20 to 30 minutes. So the process I thought was going to take forever actually ended up being very, very, very fast. I love when that kind of stuff happens. So I probably should have animated him saying, thanks for watching, goodbye. But sadly, that's not the case. I know some of this stuff flies over some of your heads. If you were able to understand this, the puppet tool, pretty much if you have After Effects, use the puppet tool and create a ton of pictures, each having like a different, each having a different facial expression. And then you can easily just slap your character into the world. Don't forget to create a shadow underneath him, because he won't create one. That's just an easy oval with the opacity dropped and very feathered out. Yeah, I mean, I know it's not the manliest thing in the world to animate this, but this was an interesting test for me. It definitely taught me how to use the puppet tool. So if you don't understand the power of the puppet tool, you're missing out here, bro. If you have After Effects and you haven't used the puppet tool yet, you have a lot of power in your hands. I'm serious. So that's it. Thank you for watching. I'm going to cut it now. This is a big old shout out. This video is more for my bronies out there. So hopefully you learned something. If you're confused, send me a message on YouTube. I'm on Skype as well. Just send me a message if you're very, very confused and want a more in-depth or step-by-step instructions on how to do this. Just send me a message on YouTube. YouTube's probably the best way to get in contact with me. Just do that. I'll catch you guys later.